Before I opened my facility, I literally visited in person over 100 places across the country. I was basing my pricing structure on what I saw others doing, which I don't necessarily recommend doing because you don't know if those places are profitable or not. So today I want to talk about one of my favorite topics in business in general. Anybody who knows me or has worked with me probably knows that I could talk for hours about this one topic, and this topic is pricing. But before I do, go to 4dayprofitrace.com. That's the number 4, dayprofitrace.com, and get my free, totally free diagnostic course so you can make more money without working so dang hard. And it's super fast and super simple, and it's going to blow your mind. So that is number 4, dayprofitrace.com. So this episode is sponsored by connectexperts.io. That's experts with an X. Connect, Xperts.io. At Connect Experts, we help busy dog business owners get more leads and convert them without having to spend money they don't have on expensive ads. Go to Connect Experts, that's experts with an X.io to learn more. Now, I happen to have a lot of expertise in the pricing arena because I flubbed up my pricing back when I started my dog boarding, daycare, and training facility. Now, my pricing for dog training was pretty spot on, but it was still based on, at the time, what I would consider like I call it comparisonitis. I compared what other trainers in the area were charging for board and trains, for in-home consultations, and I priced myself a tiny bit above them, which was at the time one of the smart things I did. And then when I opened my dog training and boarding facility, I priced my daycare prices and my boarding prices based on sort of comparing what others in the area were charging. And it was not a smart idea. So back in the day, so I started dog training in 2005. So this is a long time ago. I opened my facility in 2007. So keep in mind the dates. Maybe like, you might be like, whoa, that is not a lot of money for that. And you may be also, depending on where you are in the country and how long you've been doing this or what your ideas about money are, you may think it sounds like a lot still. Cause I talk to hundreds of people every year and I'm like, whoa, that is what you're charging in 2023, 2024. That's wow. Anyway, so when I opened my dog daycare boarding and training facility, I kept my training prices the same, but I decided to charge for daycare, dog daycare, $25 a day. And for some reason, basically because I was comparing what others were charging, like I'm going to reel things back a step, but before I opened my facility, I literally visited in person over 100 places across the country. When I was going to dog training seminars, I would visit every boarding kennel, every daycare that would let me come and visit. So over 100 places. So I was basing my pricing structure on what I saw others doing. So, which I don't necessarily recommend doing because you don't know if those places are profitable or not. You don't know if they are owned by a trust fund child. You don't know if they maybe had an investor invest in them and they don't have to show a profit for 10 years, like Amazon didn't have to show a profit for forever until they did. So I opened my dog daycare boarding and training facility and I charged $25 a day for daycare, and boarding was $35 a night. And if they picked up after, I can't remember if it was 10 or noon. Honestly, I don't remember. I think it was 10 a.m. If they picked up after 10 a.m., I would charge $15 for a late pickup fee. Now that makes no sense when you look at it. So daycare, a day of daycare, $25. And the next day of daycare, $25. So 2 days of full daycare would be $50. But if you brought your dog to board with me, drop off in the morning, stay all day, I'll feed you. My staff will make sure you're okay all the way overnight. The next morning we feed you. And then your people come and pick up the next afternoon, $50. It was the same price for 2 days of daycare or 2 days of daycare and 1 night of boarding. So when I realized what I was doing, I had to take a step back and I completely changed my pricing structure. It was a fascinating one. I'm not going to go into that right now. And it worked immediately. I tripled my revenue overnight with the same number of dogs that I had before. So pricing is it's a huge topic that people don't really like to talk about, but they also like to talk about it because they like to compare prices. And when people set up a pricing strategy or a structure for their business, I hear this all the time. Well, I don't want to charge too much more than the people in my area. I don't want to price people out. I don't want to nickel and dime people. And every time I hear that, I think, oh man, this sounds like me back in the day before I did a lot of work on my money mindset and shifted how I think about money. Because who are we to make a decision for what people are going to be willing to spend or want to spend their money on? It's none of our business, really, what they want to spend their money on. If they decide to spend their money with us, hopefully we are delivering the services at such a high level that they're going to continue wanting to spend money with us. So our pricing, rather than being based on a feeling, like I have a feeling that people are not going to want to spend that much, or I have a feeling that this area doesn't support that kind of pricing. Pricing based on feeling is not actually real business. It's kind of just like, we're going to throw stuff out there and try to make this work and blah, blah, blah. It has nothing to do with how a business actually needs to be run. And a business needs to be run unless you are, like I said, like some people out there literally have more money than they know what to do with, and they're just doing this for fun. But those are very rare. There might be like 8 people in the whole country like that. The rest of us, or you, are running your business likely in order to make enough money to have a life, to feed a family, to have other hobbies, to maybe this is your hobby, to take a vacation, to fund a retirement, whatever the reason is. And so you must be able to not only pay your people, or if you have people working for you, to cover your overhead, if you have a mortgage or lease or anything you're paying for utilities, all of the everything. You have to have enough money to pay for that plus pay yourself, right? So are you basing your pricing based on a feeling or based on what is actually going to cause your business to have a profit and to be able to pay you money in return? Is your pricing based on a comparison, or is it based on reality, right? I'm going to give you an example. So I remember the first time I spoke at a large dog training conference, I asked the room, and this was in 2016. This was about 8 years ago. So we're talking almost 10 years ago. I asked the people in the room if any of them did dog boarding, and they said yes. And I said, okay, so how many of you are priced for a night at $45 or less a night? And most of the hands in that room went up. It was shocking to me. Dog trainers, in my opinion, in my experience, can charge far more for dog boarding than a typical dog boarding facility may be able to, because people have already spent a lot of money with you training their dogs, and they will likely not take their dog anywhere else if they can help it because they trust you, right? So you can charge more for that. Plus also a dog trainer will likely, and if you're not a dog trainer, don't take offense at this, but if you are a dog trainer, you are going to be keeping up a structure for those dogs that they're not getting anywhere else, probably not even in their own home. So just the keeping with the structure, the waiting at thresholds, the waiting before they come out of their run or their crate or wherever their enclosure is, the calmly walking from place to place, the being able to stay on a place, without breaking, all of those things that a dog trainer would do naturally costs more money, in my opinion, to deliver just because of your expertise than, let's say, a typical boarding facility. Now, I'm not dissing typical boarding facilities because I also ran one. But just because you have a boarding facility and you're not a dog trainer doesn't mean you can't charge a lot of money. So I asked those people a question at that conference when I was speaking. I asked them how many of them were willing to adjust their prices upwards. Now, I don't like to call it an increase. I like to call it an adjustment. It just adjusts in an upward manner, just like all of the other prices out there adjust. Like yesterday, I took my nephews out for brunch. School is off this week, and the restaurant we went to, I noticed on the menu, because I remember pricing, all the prices were up by at least $1 for every single dish. I'm like, oh, look, they increased their prices. They adjusted them upwards. They never asked anybody permission. They did not put out a press release. They did not send out an email. They did not put a thing on their door that said, hey, our prices went up. They just changed them. They just adjusted them. Boom, done. And it was as full as ever, right? Maybe somebody was grumbling about it, but they were certainly paying their bill after they ate their food. So I also have a free Facebook group called Dog Business Success Community. And I welcome you to join the community there. It's very supportive, and I have more free trainings and some amazing interviews with very successful dog business owners. Some are on building their third and more facility, many of them millionaires. Most of them started out with absolutely nothing. And so just go to Facebook and join my group, Dog Business Success Community. In the world of boarding a dog is what I'm going to talk about right now for pricing. I want you to think about the people who are boarding their dog with you. How much time they have spent planning their vacation if they're going on a vacation, how much money they're going to spend on that vacation, and how much money that they are allocating to their dog to have a place to stay or to have like somebody stay with them at their home or whatever that is. So, I'd like, how do I say this? Because the last time anybody that I know traveled, including myself, and stayed in a hotel, I think I paid $219 a night, not a fancy hotel, and I had to pay for everything extra. Now, if I hear people say, I don't want to be nickeled and dimed, I'm like, well, every time you travel, you're letting yourself be nickeled and dimed. Why not? And you buy things without even thinking about it. You're shopping, you're adding stuff on at your hotel. Like I was in this hotel, I would grab a bottle of water, like $3.50 for that, cheap little 19-cent bottle of water. I easily paid, I don't know, an extra $85 to $100 a day because I would eat at the hotel. I was having meetings at the hotel, eating breakfast, paid for that, eating dinner, paid for that, having bottles of water, paid for that, had something extra. Maybe I Instacarted something in, paid for that. I nickel and dimed myself. So my $219 a night hotel room that also had bed tax, city tax, county tax, whatever the tax on top of the tax on the tax, that's a joke, was probably like a $239 or $249 a night room that was clean. But now they don't come in and change your sheets every day. They don't change your linens unless you put something on the outside of the door that says, please change this. So people are not batting an eye. This example is because people are not batting an eye at spending so much money when they go stay somewhere, if it's for business, if it's for pleasure, whatever it is. And we, as people who are boarding their beloved companions, are worried about charging them more than, let's say, $45 a night. It's fascinating to me. If people say their dogs are important to them, if they really believe their dogs are important to them, don't you think they will be willing to pay for a service where their dog is watched over, cared for, fed? And if you're in my world, you're probably doing a daily wellness check or a daily weight, a daily snout to tail assessment to make sure that everything's fine with them. If you're not in my world and not doing that, that's okay. You can start doing something like that where you track that so that the people know that you are taking care of their dog in a way that is probably even more than what they're doing. But we're not going to tell them that. So most of the people in my world end up, when they look at what they're charging for boarding, end up charging a lot more for boarding, like $75 a day equivalent, if not more. One of my clients on the East Coast, who is a dog walker and also boards dogs in her home, decided to go up to over $200. I think she's at $210 a day for boarding in her home. Now, why did she do that? Well, one reason was because she had too many dogs in her home for her comfort at one point. All of her clients wanted to be boarding with her. They trusted her. And she went from like $65 a night to $75 a day, like over 2 or 3 years. Now she's at $210 a day because she wanted to cap the number of dogs and be able to care for them without overwhelming herself and burning out. And so what happened was the number, so she capped it, I think, at 6 dogs a night. But every time I talk to her, she's boarding 8 to 10 dogs a weekend, depending on the weekend, because she still can't say no. But she's not doing boarding for 16 to 18 dogs a night any longer, which is a little like you're super, y'all can do that. You can take care of that many dogs, no worries, but you're also burning yourself out at the same time. So now she has fewer dogs in her home on holiday weekends, holiday weeks, and she's making far more money, which has allowed her to do other things in her life, to go to visit her parents, to go do other things. The pricing, it takes into consideration so many aspects, but one of the things that if I could just say, please look at shifting this potentially, is we are not in charge of deciding what other people are going to spend their money on. They may say, oh my gosh, your boarding is so expensive. I cannot afford that. Your daycare is so expensive. I cannot afford that. Oh, that training is so expensive. I can't afford that. When they just went on a 3-week meta training cruise and their person that they're with is, has new bling on their finger, wearing a new little fancy necklace or something. No, they just choose what they're going to spend their money on. And hopefully, and it's not really a hope, it's just you're going to be delivering such a great service, such a great experience for the people and for the dogs that they're happy to pay you what you ask. I have, if you're a dog trainer and you work with me, you're probably charging $100 a day right now. If you're a boarding facility and you work with me, you most likely removed multiple dog discounts. If you do daycare only and you've worked with me or heard anything I've said, you've likely removed multiple dog discounts. Why? Pricing. We have to pay ourselves and someone else and our overhead, our utilities, all of the things to take care of these dogs. We are spending no less time on two dogs. I'm not saying it correctly. We're spending probably even more time taking care of a multiple dog family than we are taking care of a solo dog, only because there's different issues that come up with multiple dogs. So the multiple dog discount thing, by the way, if you don't know it, maybe you know this, came out of old style traditional kennels. You could put multiple dogs from a family into a kennel, boom, throw some blankets in there, cot, whatever. In the morning, you raise the guillotine door, raise that guillotine door, which is a terrible name, but that's what they call it. Dogs go outside, close the door, remove all the bedding, throw it into the washer, whatever, hose it down. Once that's dry, sometimes some places I saw that I visited, I'm like, wow, they're letting the dogs back in that space even when it's not dry. That was crazy to me, but open the guillotine door back up and the dogs come back into the space. And sometimes they leave that door up during the day. So the dog's in an indoor-outdoor run. I am not dissing indoor-outdoor runs, but that is where the idea of multiple dog discounts came from, was old-style traditional kennels. These days, old-style traditional kennels are fewer and farther between. They tend to be cheaper than other places because you're kind of selling by real estate. Like, I have a space this size. We can fit 4 family dogs in here. Yeah, it's not going to take us that much more work. Got to slop some food down. You're not really doing that much with those dogs unless you have an enrichment program or some sort of dog daycare type of thing there. So if you think about where the pricing strategy came from, and you think about how you're running your business as compared to how maybe that type of a business is run, you can justify in your head without having to justify to one person that you don't have multiple dog discounts because you want to spend as much time, your staff, yourself, with this dog as you do with this dog. Just because they came from the same family doesn't mean you're going to spend less time or care with them. And every minute you're caring for a dog costs you money. It costs you your time away from other things that you could be doing. It costs your staff. It costs you to pay your staff for all of this. And so pricing is a definite strategy that I believe needs to be looked at all across the industry. I would love to see businesses level up their pricing, only because if people are going to say, well, there's many reasons I'd like to see you level up your pricing. If people are going to say, this is my baby, I love my dog, then they can pay for what it costs to care for their dog if they want to. They don't have to. They could get a neighbor to come watch the dog. They could get someone off of one of the big aggregator sites. They could do all sorts of things to have someone watch their dog. But to charge a lower price because you think people aren't going to come to you unless your pricing is lower is a huge mistake. It is the cause of burnout and overwhelm in this industry. It is the reason we can't pay people enough to keep them, right? Things have changed in how we pay people. We want to be able to pay them enough to keep them, to incentivize them to stay, not just because they're making more money, but because then maybe we can offer also more benefits, take care of them in a better way, while we're also caring for people's dogs and cats and whoever else we're boarding or taking care of. And I want to share with you one thought before I leave you today. And it's something I heard at a huge business seminar from a man named Keith Cunningham. And he is a big CPA who teaches business owners how to think about money. And I was in this room, like smashed together like sardines, sitting next to people. I'm like, I don't want to touch your shoulder. I don't know who you are. But anyway, we're like this. And this man comes on the stage with wearing a cowboy hat and his big belt buckle, his big cowboy belt buckle and his boots. And he says, hey, I want to talk to you about something. You could double your prices tomorrow, lose half of your client base, and make more money. Now, I don't remember the rest of that. It was a week. It was 5 days. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember any other speaker. I don't remember anything from that. I remember sitting like a sardine, but that's about it. That one quote changed my entire life. So if we're fearful of losing clients who don't want to pay us enough money for what it takes for us to deliver that service in a really great way, if we're afraid of losing the people who don't want to pay us for the value that we deliver, I'd like you to think about that. Like, if they're not willing to pay for that value, why are we trying to deliver a value they're not trying to pay for? They don't want to pay for. You could literally, let's say you had 100 total clients, double your prices, lose half of them, and make more money because now you have probably lower labor dollars going out, fewer labor dollars going out. You have, you're spending less on supplies. The whole list of everything that you're spending on goes down while you're making more money. And if you have more of a boutique feeling, you're not trying to do a big volume. Like if you're a volume business, that's different. You're probably going to have a different model. I prefer for people to be able to deliver the service they're delivering really beautifully, really carefully, and make plenty of money so that they are not exhausted all the freaking time. Because everybody I talk to, if they haven't been in my world before, they're exhausted. And there's no reason really. Well, there's a lot of reasons if you're exhausted, but there's no reason to be when your pricing strategy is done well. So I just want some thoughts I'd like you to think about. And let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, comment on this. If you know me from Facebook or Instagram, comment there. You can message me. Let me know how this lands for you. Because when you change how you think about your pricing and you realize that your pricing also has to suit you, your entire life is going to change for the better. You have been listening to the Thriving Dog Business Podcast with Sherry Boyer, a 7-figure dog business owner. Subscribe to us to get more proven tips to boost your profits without working yourself into the ground. And we have new episodes every other week. To get clear on how to make more money in less time, go to 4dayprofitrace.com to get my exclusive free, very short course.